This is for ancient architecture. So yung history is from the Greek word na historia. So meaning inquiry. And yung inquiry, ibig sabihin nun is info or investigation. So history is chronological na records of events, discovery, collection, organization, and presentation of information about past events. And architecture provides a different or direct means of expressing views of different cultures about the structure of the world. Architecture is also the great book of mankind. Man's primary means to express the various stages of his development. Architecture is from the Greek word archi, or means chief. That's why architects are called chief builders or architects, diba? Tekton means builder. That's why building is architecton. Architecture is also an art and science of designing and erecting buildings or structures. Architecture is a style and method of design and construction of buildings and other physical structures. A historic style of architecture is the particular method, the characteristics, the manner of design, which is prevalent at a certain place and time. Historical period is the particular time in the history of man that a certain style was prevalent. So we have the timelines. This is the construction of buildings reflects the scientific scientific, religious, social, and philosophical worldview of each period that are the factors. So the significant buildings in the ancient times are the temples and churches, which is the religious faith that is dominant or was dominant in human life. Royal palaces, increased importance of the rulers. The skyscrapers, economic power. Actually, skyscrapers are on the modern architecture that promotes economic power, symbolizing economic power. So, if we tackle about prehistoric architecture, we will have the Old Stone Age, New Stone Age, and also Bronze or Iron Age. So, on Old Stone Age, merong mga caves. There are caves, and it can be called as Paleolithic. In that time, 80,000 to 40,000 before Christ, they learned how to store and to make tools and be a nomad. Nomad is those people who are traveling around and with no particular shelter or place. They just go around and find and survive. They find food and then they will go back again to their man-made shelter, or sometimes, as we have said, they lived in cages. They lived in caves. So that was the Old Stone Age, and or can be called as Paleolithic. And then, Mesolithic, or 80,000 to 7,000 before Christ, or can be called before Common Era, because in respect to other religions, we can call it before Common Era. Mesolithic can be called as Middle Stone Age. So they learned how to have agriculture. They also migrate, and some are nomadic as well. But at this time, they learned how to stay on a certain place, on a single place, one place. And at this time, they didn't travel and roam around the area, because they know how to plant and grow their own foods. And then after that, the New Stone Age came, and it can be called as Neolithic. That was the year of 7,000 to 2,300 before Common Era. And this time, they stayed on one place. So in this time, because they know how to plant, to grow foods, or agriculture, in short, they didn't became nomadic at this time. Certainly, no one, or in common, there are no nomad in this time. So, but before that, I will just isisingit ko lang na Old Stone Age, the reason of Old Stone Age, why it ended, is because of the Ice Age. So maybe it can be asked at the board exam. We don't know. Just another facts and info about that. So in the next topic, or the next age after Neolithic or New Stone Age, is the Bronze or Iron Age. In this time, they build advanced civilization. They use metals and precious than gold. Actually, metals are more precious than gold in this time, in this Iron Age, right? So next, in the prehistoric architecture. So prehistoric, it means they have no records, no written records. So in ancient Near East, in this time, there are cuneiforms. They have a certain way of writing. So in ancient Near East, we know that, and we will know actually, that they have the Sumeria, Mesopotamia, and Babylonia. And then next is ancient Egypt. In some books, the year actually depends, because in some sources, the year is different. But in this source that I have is 3,050 to 900 before Christ, or before Common Era. Next is the classical architecture, which is in the year of 850 to 476 after that, or Ado Domini, or after, actually it depends on the meaning actually. So I just have to search the meaning for the genera. So we just have to say that it can be called as Anno Domini. Gaudi had a meaning. And then next is Renaissance architecture, 1400 to 1600s. And Renaissance architecture, we have Baroque, 1500 to 1830 in short. And then Rococo, 1650s, 1790. And then next, and then Rococo, 1650 to 1790. And then next is the return to classicism or neoclassicism. After that, it became the revivalism. And then next is Art Nouveau, 1890 to 1914. And then Beaux Arts architecture, 1895 to 1925. And the next is early modern architecture, which is Expressionist Art Deco in 1925 to 1937. And then International Style 1900s. And then in the modern era, actually in today, is the contemporary architecture, 1900 to present. So under contemporary architecture, we have the modern, critical regionalism, postmodern, and deconstructivism. So actually, sometimes we are confused in using the style. I mean, the time and style, or period or time to style. We are confused in dealing with the term of time or period and style. Actually, time and period is like contemporary architecture. It is the year. Actually, it is the period. Not in figuratively way, but actually period is like the Renaissance architecture, like that. And the style is the under of the is the style under this period. Like for example, I hope the one listening, those who are listening can understand what I'm saying. The contemporary architecture is like the period, okay? Because sometimes, actually before when I was in college, I am really confused in what I'm going to say because I did, and I used the term modern style because I thought that was the style, but actually it isn't. It should be like minimalist, so that is the style, and then like the constructivism, that is a style. Okay, I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay, we'll go back to the review. And then classical Greek is like the rational approach, and then this is the summary for all the periods and styles. So classical Greek is the rational approach. Hellenistic, that is prior to Greek actually. Hellenistic is emotion. And then medieval churches. So in medieval churches, we have Cistercian, order stern and devoid of decorations. Order of Cluny, rich in sculptural decorations. In Renaissance, the rational forms and harmonies. And then decorations, order of Cluny, rich in sculptural decorations. In Renaissance, the rational forms and harmonies. And then the Baroque is the dynamic curves, shapes heavy male. And then the Rococo is light female. Neoclassicism is a conservative rational. And then Romantic style is the feeling of longing for all distant places and times. These actually are the emotion factors, okay? So modern style is universal, uniform, which strive to break from the past. Okay, and then the postmodernism and deconstructivism is a pluralistic approach. Okay, so we will go down to the influences of architecture. What are the factors that consider the certain architecture. Okay? Now go down to geography, which is the location of a particular country. Next is the geology, or materials found in the locality, the character and composition of the earth, and the contour of the ground. So, climate, another factor, or weather. Actually, climate in general is a prevailing the board exam next year. And then the Rococo is three background to people as a piece or rewind or recap and then history of architecture in Philippines. So going back, the influences of architecture. So going back, the influences of architecture are the geography, location of a particular country, geology, materials found in the locality, the character and composition of the earth and the contour of the ground, and then the climate, prevailing weather in the country, and then the religion, the emotional temperament and spiritual tendencies, history, background to people as a whole, and then social, political, on how the people lived and are governed. So we'll go thoroughly. So as we have seen sa syllabi of the PRC, Rationales, analysis of architectural manifestations from the beginning, or contemporary periods of development, and then the analysis of the influences or environmental, historical, and socio-cultural factors in their relevance to the development of art, our buildings, structures, as well as the human settlements. So, we have the introduction, di ba? The history, and then history of architecture, and the historic style of architecture, and then the origin of architecture, and then the factors affecting the style of architecture. So this is the introduction first, because napakalawak po ng history na architecture. And actually, alam naman natin kung gaano karaming mga bansa sa buong mundo. And ang galing kasi, kahit malalayo yung mga lugar, meron pa rin connection or pagkakataon na nagkakaroon ng pagkakapare-pareho kahit magkaibang lugar. For example, ang Egypt at saka China, di ba? Bakit sila umusbong? Kung ang kakapare-parehas nila, we will learn that on the future uploads. So this is for the so this is parang podcast para yun sa mga gustong mag-review in advance or the board exam next year, or kung kailan nyo man gustong pumunta, kung kailan nyo man gustong mag-exam, okay? So because of according to PRC, we will tackle about prehistoric architecture and then historic styles of architecture, and under this are the ancient architecture in the Western succession, and then architecture in Asia and the Pacific region, and architecture in the Philippines. So rewind or recap. So we have the prehistoric, okay? This is the historical styles or period. I said a while ago, what is the difference of styles and period, right? So the prehistoric is what I've said a while ago. We will try to remember what we've said a while ago, that prehistoric is the time or period that have no written records. They only know how to draw at the walls in their cavities of the caves, right? They don't know how to write. Archaeologists just found some drawings at the caves. So next is the Egyptian Near East and pre-Columbian in America. And the next is the classical Greek and classical Roman, which is the classical architecture. And the next is early Christian, Byzantine, Romanesque, Gothic, Renaissance, which are the Western historical styles. And the next is the modern, international, and postmodernism actually. But aside that, the syllabi also covered the subject people need to study is the Asian, Islamic, and Philippine architecture. So, with history of architecture, we have many sources. For me, I have the sources from A Visual Dictionary for Architecture by D.K. Ching, and then by George Sullivan, The Architectural Character and the History of Architecture. So George Sullivan is Filipino. Before I thought he's foreigner because of his surname. And then next is the well-known Sir Bannister Fletcher's A History of Architecture. So we have many editions, but I hope we have the updated version of the books. So that's for all for introduction of architecture, history of architecture.